Fani's coming back in. If she has a clear name, then she should have the opportunity to clear her name. And let's see if she does that. There's Fani on the bench. What are we going to hear? No bias, no influence. It was a loving relationship.
All right, we are back on the record. Deputy Scott, if you could swear in our next witness.
I would, and I do apologize. Anna, do me a favor. Tell them I'm gonna need some reading glasses.
Reading glasses.
Tell them I'm gonna need some reading.
You didn't even bring your reading glasses?
So I don't hold up the court.
Oh my gosh.
You swear on form to the testimony, you should get a court. Help you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, spell your first name.
District.
Last name for the court.
District Attorney Fani, F-A-N-I. Last name is Willis.
Yes, Fani Willis.
Miss Willis, how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people, I was pacing in my office.
Okay.
And I heard someone yell, his testimony is done. It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've
Wow.
been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday and
Whoa.
yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
This is bad.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday.
This judge.
And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Great.
She's furious.
So let's talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman, me not so much.
So you screamed at
Okay,
him?
but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not.
I read this motion, skimmed it more so.
This is bad.
And I've probably said some choice things to him about some of the lies that were told.
Okay.
And
Way
then
too
printed in the
emotional.
media because, we used to be in a day in time where you had 60 minutes and people did stories and they verified information and you had this great reporting. But it
You're gonna
seems
be able to
today
explain
that
that
a
today.
lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
You're in court.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answer the question I asked, though. So my question was,
I'm gonna object. Been asked and
Overruled, Mr. Abadi.
Yeah. She's being, pipe down,
I
buddy.
told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is.
Okay.
And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
you did not.
Is
He
there
said you
something you
did.
didn't understand?
No, I
said-
just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
He
you
said
did not
you did.
have
Nathan said
a
you
meeting with
did.
him in the conference room to discuss the
All
motion.
right, next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office within this week, you produced some financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure if it was given it to him by me or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any conversation with him that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He's sent me very nice sermons that have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon?
Is that why you talked to
You know,
church?
things of that nature. And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Let's start back in 2019.
Yep.
So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I think in one of your motions, you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade was my teacher. I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reeves, who is a judge. Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up. I think they hug each other, introduces us.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We kind of thought that when you asked a question, you can answer the question, not a speech, so I object to the speech making.
I
I
agree.
believe I'm
Judge.
able to explain my answers.
I believe she's able to explain her answers.
And
That's, Ms. Merchant, that's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you just listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question, and keep the answers confined to the question as best you can. I think you'll have more than enough ample opportunity on when the state is
Well,
able
it's
to ask
highly offensive when
follow-ups.
someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try
Judge.
to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right, well, Ms. Willis, have the opportunity to explain all of that
You
when
will.
it's the state's turn to ask more open-ended questions.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
open
Ms. Merchant.
to her talking.
Thank you, Judge.
I kind of okay with that.
so again,
Just
my
let her
question
go.
was, you all met at that conference though, right?
We did the
Okay.
meeting. He, as I stated, he taught the class. I did not actually meet him when he taught the class. I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that exact class or we had went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule, like outside of the class.
Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade October 2019
I'm
at
gonna.
Judges
We
Conference?
haven't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostile under 611.
I think we
And
have.
I'm very
Mr.
much
Roddy.
want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I
Yes, you
very
are.
much want to be
Not
here.
so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Yep. And we can
Thank
see
you.
it.
Merchants' interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor.
Oh,
not to
oh
mine.
gosh. Oh,
All right,
yeah.
let's
Judge, I
proceed.
would
We
just
can
ask
keep,
that
we
we.
can keep things moving. Ms. Merchant,
Thank you.
next question,
Thank you.
please.
Okay,
that on your
so
bingo
we've confirmed
card?
when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to explain my answers. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
You started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
The lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay. Do you know Robin Yeartie?
I know her as Robin Bryant.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years.
So-
But we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as. Have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she,
A lot of drama
You
in that
know,
office.
there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
Wow.
So let's
Well,
narrow
I
it down, the
never
timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
During 2021, you all were friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And such good friends that when you needed a place to stay, you asked her if you could take over her lease.
That's a lie.
You did
That's
not
not
move
the-
into her apartment?
I
or her
did, but
condo?
that's not the way you characterize it is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Okay. What'd you do?
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April of 21, but the circumstances around that were that Robin met her husband. They wanted to move into another space. She wanted to get rid of her condo. My father was living with me at the house.
And you
Because
need-
of this case and because of my stance on gangs, my life was being threatened regularly.
Yes, because
My
of the
father
Trump case.
urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she
No.
met, who eventually became her husband.
And you moved in with a new man,
as
too,
life
Nathan.
circumstances worked, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she didn't, have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I move in and take over her lease.
When did you
Whatever
move
she
out?
said it was, that's what I paid.
When did you
I
move out?
abruptly moved out in February, either late January or early February of 22.
Of 22. So you were still friends with Miss Yeartie then. Were you also friends with Mr. Bradley?
I've never been friends with Mr. Bradley.
You've never been friends with Mr. Bradley?
No, I don't consider us to be friends. I don't dislike Mr. Bradley, but
Bradley's like, oh,
I don't consider us to be friends.
what?
Is he someone that you would have in your phone and you would message with?
I might have text messaged him.
Okay. Would you text message him and Mr. Wade on the same conversations?
I don't recall doing that, but if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so that wouldn't surprise you, the three of you. Okay. How frequently would you think that the three of you would have texted?
Not
in a group
very,
chat?
I wouldn't think very often, but you're asking me to recall. I don't even know what time period you're asking me to recall, but I'm not going to speak to that because I just really don't know the answer to that. And so I don't want to speculate as to how often that would happen. But it's not out of my practice to text two people on one text message. So if you told me that happened and showed it to me, although I have no recollection of it,
But there would be some record of it in your phone, or the phone records would have some record of those texts.
perhaps.
And talk about, you said that sometimes you paid Miss Yeartie cash. When you went on vacation with Mr. Wade, let's start with the first one. What's the first time you went on vacation with Mr. Wade?
Hard to remember. They went on a lot of trips.
I think the first time we went on vacation was around April of 22. And a vacation is a stretch, but I'm trying to be comprehensive. I recall April of 22. His birthday is March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure.
Oh, Nathan
But-
said no.
I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I just am trying to be inclusive. I know it wasn't more than a day.
So you didn't spend the night?
I think that we did. That's what I'm telling you. I think
I-
that there's a possibility that we stayed that night.
Nathan
in
said they did
April
not.
of 22.
Who
Nathan,
paid for the hotel?
I think I did. It was his birthday.
And would you have used a credit card?
Probably maybe a debit card.
A debit card?
Hmm.
You remember what town you stayed in?
No, I don't remember.
And when did you start dating?
When I started dating Mr. Wade, it was right around then. That
April 2022?
22. Yes, it
2022.
was around then. I don't know, like, it's not like when you're in grade school and you send a little letter and it says, will you be my girlfriend? And you check it. I don't know the day
That's how I
that we
do it.
started seeing each other, but it was early
not supposed to do
22
that?
is my recollection.
Okay, early 22. And you all went to Florida on vacation as well?
I don't recall going to Florida on vacation with him.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
When we went to get on the cruise ship,
you left out
we
of
went to Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the only
Um,
time that you went to Florida with him?
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent one night. That's my recollection of our
Paid
vacation.
for that hotel.
In Miami? I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown.
Okay.
And we've done that, so that I'm clear. We've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you, did we stay when the ship left or did we stay when the ship came back? I also can't tell you. So there's 2 cruises out of Miami. There's one that's in that October time period that was with his mom. And then there was another that was a New Year's Eve trip. I know I paid for the New Year's Eve trip because the tickets were $697 each. And I thought this is ridiculous that the tickets are $700 to go to Miami. But when you travel during New Year's Eve, they get you.
So
What do you
let's
care?
let's
It's
just
Fulton
back up and
County
talk about
money.
the first time that you went to Florida with Mr. Wade. That was the time that you said you stayed in Miami at the hotel the first night?
That's the time I told you, I am not sure. So I'm not sure of 2 things. So I want to make sure that my testimony is clear. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the October trip. I'm not sure if we stayed in Miami on the December trip. I just can't remember that.
So many trips.
And
It's
I
hard to
also
keep
don't
track.
remember, so that the record is clear. I don't remember if the necessity was as we got on the ship or we got off the ship. But I do remember there was a night spent in Miami.
I was not asking you which night you stayed in Miami. I'm asking if you took a cruise in October 2022 with Mr. Wade
Yes, and his mom.
and his mother. That's what I was asking.
Yes,
Is that the first time you met his mother?
yes.
It was on that cruise. And that was Royal Caribbean, I believe?
I honestly don't remember what ship. I know we've taken 2 cruises. I don't know what the ships were.
But he paid for the flight and the cruise on Royal Caribbean that time.
So yes, he paid. He is the original one that does it. Mr. Wade is a world traveler. I'm not as versed as him. He's been to 6 of the 7 continents.
Wow.
And so he has both a personal travel agent and he also has a cruise travel agent. I don't know anything about either of those kind of travel agents. So he is the one that would book the travel. Need to be clear when we're talking about just because he booked it doesn't mean, like, I don't consider him having taken me any place. Let me just be honest. The only one that's ever taken somebody someplace is for his 50th birthday. I consider that I took him to Belize, and I did 50 big, very big.
50 big.
So
Took him to Belize.
still on that October Royal Caribbean cruise,
Yes.
he paid for the cruise and the flights for that trip.
And I think that when you say things that way, I want this record to be
Initially.
abundantly clear that he calls his travel agent and then he tells me how much it is and I give him the money back. I don't, just like you're asking me about the money with Robin, I don't do my friends like that. So if you tell me it's a G, then you're going to get $1,000. If whatever it is, I didn't ever make him produce receipts to me. Whatever he told me it was, I gave him his money back.
Isn't it true that he paid for the cruise and the flight on his credit card? I'm not asking about reimbursement or after. He used his credit card to buy the cruise and buy the flight, correct?
I have no idea how he paid for it.
Okay.
If it's a credit card, if it's a debit card.
And then after that cruise, you all flew to Aruba and spent a couple days in a hotel there, correct?
Right. And his mother was not happy
He
that we left her
initially paid
behind.
for that. He initially paid for that.
For Aruba, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba, yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you got cash to
Cash.
pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady.
No,
You would not
lady.
go to the ATM.
No.
Okay. So Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton
Okay.
County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposit.
Okay. So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank.
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house. So it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it
I've had
didn't come out of the
for-
bank?
Cash is fungible. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. When it's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you I just have cash in my house, I don't have as much today as I would normally
You
have,
paid
but
some to
I'm building
Nathan.
back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would
Where
advise
does
it
it
to all
come
women.
from?
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody
do it.
gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is,
Any
for
questions,
many
George?
years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
Where does it come
The
from?
money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know
A bank?
which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private
It
job?
came from, what are you talking about?
I'm not a lawyer.
So it could have come from a private job, because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. That's probably in there.
You don't know
It
where
could
it came
have,
from.
what do you mean? I don't know where it came from. I
I think I
absolutely,
understand the situation. We can move on.
Okay. thanks.
Okay.
Same with Aruba. You don't know where that cash came from either, right?
ma'am, you are mischaracterizing my testimony greatly. I'm not going to allow you to mischaracterize my testimony.
Well, then where did it
I
come
know
from?
that I keep money in my house. The amounts of money I gave Mr. Wade, it was never that serious. I don't think I've ever handed him more than $2,500 in a reimbursement. So we're not talking about $20,000 in cash. I don't have $20,000 in cash right now.
$2,500's a lot of
The
cash
most
to
I ever
carry
gave
around.
him, I know I gave him $2,500 when we went to Belize, because we went to one
Wasn't the Belize
hotel
trip more than
and
that?
then we went to a second hotel. That $2,500 I actually gave him while we were still in Belize. I know that the Aruba trip, the one that you described with his mom, I think I gave him about $2,000 for that trip, for like total.
His mom
Uh,
went to Aruba with you?
The Aruba trip. So I consider that to be one trip. So we got off of a cruise ship and then we went to Aruba, which is why I cannot remember is that the time
Lot
that
of
we had to
vacays,
stay in Miami
yeah.
to wait for the flight for Aruba.
So how many times did you go with Mr. Wade to California?
Once.
And you all stayed in Napa Valley and he paid for the plane tickets and the hotel?
He paid for the plane tickets and the hotel.
And what did you pay for on that trip?
I gave him much less cash that time, probably $400 or $500, and then I paid for a bunch of stuff. I think we did 2 different wine tours
Yeah.
that you do, which are pretty expensive. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do. I can't remember how many, like 4 or 5 different places you go. I remember we
She
went
named the
to
brand. Oh gosh.
to this place that they do pairings. That was the most expensive thing that I think that we did while we were there. So they would pair champagne,
I'm sure it was great.
chocolate,
Wrap it up.
and champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like 3 different things. Sweden, Russia, someplace else. I'll
So
make
it's
that
very
up.
expensive, right?
But that was the most expensive thing we did that trip, and I paid for
You pay cash?
us doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Your security detail, did they take you to and from your house? Condo, I'm sorry.
Since
And
March of
where you lay your
20
head? Did they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security
So,
team has never taken him?
from my house, that's a lie.
I'm
That's
asking
another,
if they've ever taken him anywhere.
and I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So
Okay.
your security team has never taken Mr.
My
Wade anywhere?
security team has never taken Mr. Wade from
Okay.
any place where I have lived and brought him here.
She just asked a
Never,
question.
not once, not ever.
Thank you.
Have they ever taken the two of you together?
To where?
Anywhere?
Well, we've left this building and gone to lunch, but I go to lunch so rarely that is a very rare occasion, I am sure. And let me be clear, it wouldn't just be Mr. Wade. So I'm sure my security team has taken me to lunch. Probably been a time I've left here 7 o'clock, gone to get something to eat. And I don't even know that they would have taken him or if he would have driven himself, but they've taken me to do that.
You're
But we're
using your
talking
security team for your lover?
very few, very far in between. Most days I don't even eat lunch. And when I do, it's because my assistant has heated up some bag, something, and I eat through meetings and eat in my office.
Yeah, a cup
It's
of
not a
noodles.
practice of mine to go to lunch.
Yeah. It's
During
got-
the time
it's,
period
you
that
know,
you were dating, would your security team ever take you two together anywhere?
No,
Okay. You have to file as part of your job something called an income and financial disclosure report, correct?
that's correct.
Here we go.
And you filed your first one. So you filed 2 to date? that right?
Is it 2 or 3? I probably would have filed 21, 22, and
Let's see, you filed your first one, it looks like
April,
April 15th, 2022, and your second one, April 17th, 2023. Does that sound familiar?
I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm gonna hope you're telling the truth now.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I already gave the state a copy, Exhibit 20 and 21, if you take a look at those.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
ma'am.
those are the ones that you filed.
This looks like me for sure.
Judge, we'd move to admit 20 and 21.
All right. Any objection to exhibits 20 and 21
Nope. I'm
She
sorry.
says
from other
nope.
counsel? Admitted without objection.
When did your
Yeah,
romantic
romantic.
relationship with Mr. Wade end?
My
Did it
rom-
end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends.
Just say it.
I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends to the day we die.
When the romantic relationship ended, that's the question.
It sometime in, I'd say late summer of 2023. This is what you're really asking about. This is the salaciousness of all of this, right?
No, I'm just
When
asking
you're
about your
real-
romantic relationship, when you stopped dating.
I think that me and Mr. Wade, so he's a man, he probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. And so that men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place.
Did he come to, I guess, the condo? I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So, but there's been more to understand is because of this case, I got to move.
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth.
Judge,
And
this
it
is-
is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis.
You see,
Mr. Saddow, thank you. We're gonna
Bad.
take 5
That's
minutes.
not good.
Be back in 5.
That's not good, man. Fanny's losing her bananas. She's going to have a phone call, a conversation with these prosecutors. Are going.
may I go to the bathroom?
Oh, sorry. All right. Sorry, Judge. Sorry about that, Judge. Sorry, Judge. All right. Please be seated.
All right,
Thank you.
We're back on the record.
How
Also for her.
often did Mr. Wade visit you at a place where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me in South Fulton in 2019, a home he's never been to? That's one lie you told in your
Judge,
document.
I-
No,
Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller
Ever.
parts?
I didn't ask about living.
but you put in your,
Did-
while we're talking about professionalism, no, while we're talking about
This is
professionalism,
bad.
she put in 3 different documents
Well,
he
she'll
lived
have
with me.
Full opportunity to respond.
She's talking to the judge
And
about
filed
that.
that with the court.
In
Professionalism.
2019,
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019,
Great.
I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents. In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
Ashley just letting her go,
so
which is
in
right.
2020, so you said 2019, 2020, did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He has
resided?
never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton. I'm
That's where I
asking,
lived in 2020.
20, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay, I don't understand. You're going to have to give me guidance. In 2020, I
she's-
lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home.
She's
Judge.
talking to the
All right.
judge
And
now.
at my
Well,
home
I
in
think we're gonna
South
clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it
Miss,
down.
he never came there, okay? So if you
Ms.
don't come
Willis.
someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's, I'm
Fanny.
gonna have to caution you. This is gonna be the first time I have to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens
Not
again and
good.
again, I'm gonna have no choice but to strike your testimony.
Not good for
So
Fanny.
we need to break this down. Ms. Merchant's
Not good.
question, I believe, was asking whether you lived
Pounding the
anywhere
table.
other than South Fulton.
Pounding the table. Very freaked out.
I did not live anywhere but South Fulton, Georgia in 2020. That is
That's-
before I began my prosecution of this case. And it was my plan to only live there.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yeartie?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes.
There we go.
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
No.
Okay.
Just visited.
Yeah, but he did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about,
In
during
2020?
2019 or 2020?
I don't
Warming
remember it, but it seems like we would have broke bread sometime in 2019.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say yes, although I have no recollection. But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much everyone. So I'm going to say yes.
Even though you're
Outside
scared
of the
of your
vacations
security.
that we've already talked about, did you ever go out to dinner with Mr. Wade?
I mentioned to you that
I'm
I've,
gonna object as to what time period. Like, we're asking very vague questions. I thought we were treating the witness as hostile under 611. We're no longer doing that. So we're gonna go back and forth. We need to be more specific with our questions if we're gonna treat her as hostile.
All right, Ms. Merchant, it's not so much. I think you can elect between leading and open-ended questions, but I think we are still wondering. I think we need to get back on track of focusing on the financial benefit or the relationship.
And my next question about if you did go out to dinner, who paid when you went out to dinner?
he paid, I paid.
You both paid. Did you ever pay him through Cash App?
No.
You only ever paid him through cash.
Yes.
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened? No, we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and
You
the
approved the
county
contract.
paid him for the work that he did.
Yeah, but you
So,
approved the contract.
Don't be
Fani.
cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
Don't get cute
And I
with
will
me.
ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash. Did you ever pay him anything? And I'm trying to qualify my questions. I'm not talking about the contract with Fulton County that was paid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside of that. Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given him cash a few times in the course of what we're talking about.
So you've
If
never
we
used
would
your
go to
credit card?
dinner,
Let her finish her answer. Ms.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500.
Yeah.
The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
You never wrote him a check?
Ma'am, I don't have checks.
So you have no proof of any reimbursement for any of these things because it was all cash, right?
The testimony of one witness is enough to prove a fact.
So my
Are you
question was,
telling
do
me
you
that
have
I'm
any
lying to you?
proof?
Is that what you're intimating right here?
I'm asking if you have any proof that you paid him any of these
The proof
monies.
is what I just told you.
You have no written proof. Is that correct?
No other substantiating documents.
So I have probably some transactions like in Belize. I probably spent $500 on my card. I did the $700. I probably got some minor expenses in Aruba that would be on a card. But for the most part, for those trips, other than, so the 2 cruises, I gave him money for those before we ever left. Because they were pre-booked. Let me answer.
Well, the
The-
question was if you had any written proof. And so
So I've answered you that I've had written
we can
proof
move
for
to the next question. If you've answered if you had any written proof, and that was my question.
I want to make sure that we're clear that for the 2 cruises,
Judge,
and that's
I
the
asked if
cruise
she gave
plus
him written
Aruba.
proof.
We're not going to talk over each other. Ms. Merchant, she answered your question, so
She did.
we can ask the next question.
I don't
You
think
can- Ms.
she really
Willis,
did.
Ms. Cross will have plenty of opportunities to let you clarify your answers when it's her turn.
Thank you, Judge. Knowing your role as district attorney, you know that public funds are scrutinized and money is scrutinized and things like that. You
Absolutely.
And I've
understand.
never, I'm sorry, go
You
ahead.
understand you're under a microscope. You have reporting requirements, all of those types of things. When you took office, you had a tax lien of $4,600. Did you pay that with cash when you made that tax lien whole?
I probably paid through however you pay.
Okay. So, but you were saying that you had amounts of cash. You still had that lien in 2022 when you were dating Wade and going on these trips.
Why don't you pay that
So
down?
the cash that you gave him, that could have been used to pay this tax lien off?
You gonna tell me how to pay my
And
bills?
object is not relevant as it relates to why we're here today.
Did you tell anyone at Fulton County Board of County Commissioners about your relationship with Mr. Wade?
No,
Of course not.
Did you disclose your relationship to anybody at Fulton County?
no, I don't think so.
No, you didn't.
And as the chief law enforcement officer of Fulton County, I assume that you're familiar with the county code and ordinances?
I've
With
said
the
we're
law?
not going to cover that in this hearing, Ms. Merchant.
Let me ask you this then. So are you aware that you're required to disclose any relationship with someone that you contract with in Fulton County?
I'm gonna object to the court's prior ruling that you made this morning. You made.
Would this be different because it's a potential for impeachment?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's going into her prior
What did you ask me?
disclosure records. She had
Are you
disclosure
aware
forms.
that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
What you said was you won't sleep with people who work under you. Do you not consider Mr. Wade working under you?
I consider Mr. Wade to be an agent.
Okay,
Agent?
that's
Yeah.
a legal
An
term.
appointee is what I really think of him as.
Your point, whatever merit it has, Ms. Merchant, is on the record.
Okay,
Next question.
judge wants to move on.
All right, Mr. Saddow.
This is Trump's lawyer, Steve Saddow.
I'm going to try to ask you questions that you can actually answer without having to
explain, okay?
Good luck,
Yes,
Steve.
sir. My comprehension skills are pretty good, so we should do all right.
I don't know about
We
that.
shall soon see.
We shall soon
If
see.
I heard you correctly, you moved into what I will refer to as the Yeartie condo in either March or April of 2021. Is that correct?
Sometime between late February and April. Yes, I don't, just so we're clear. Yes, but in that time period, you're in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark.
Okay. And is that Yeartie condo, would you say that it is in Hapeville?
It is in Hapeville. Yes, sir.
And you moved in there for safety reasons?
Yes.
Was your father still living in your house at the time you moved to what I would refer to as the Yeartie condo?
Yes, sir. He was due to his concerns related to COVID.
Okay. The safety concern was that there was potential danger at your house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so anyone staying at your house in the time period after you went to the Yeartie condo was still in danger, correct?
Yeah. What? No.
Answer.
I think you have to, it's your attorney, Ms. Willis. Sorry, Mr. Body, your objection is speculation to the question of
Speculation.
It's not speculation. Fanny just said it.
whether someone was still in danger at her condo.
I can read,
Just let her answer the question.
Or Mr. Saddow wants to rephrase. So he's-
No, yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
was able to
I've got
understand it.
She's
I've got
overruling her
the
own attorney.
objection, and then I have,
I'll withdraw the objection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I remember the question, so I can answer it. Yes, I was very concerned about my father still living at the house.
Not that concerned.
However, if you have dealt with an older gentleman, he was not leaving the house, despite my urging him that I thought he should leave as well. He did not want to leave the house because he was particularly worried at his age about COVID. I was not happy with that decision of my father's, but I can't ultimately make him leave. And he stayed there too long, in my opinion.
okay, thank you. Did Nathan
Needed her
Wade
special prosecutor to
visit
console
you
her.
at the Yeartie condo from the time you moved in until he was hired on November the 1st of 2021?
Yeah, I'm sure he came to visit. I can remember us going, I think the restaurant's Lickety Split. I can remember him picking me up, going to Lickety Split and ordering some food and coming and sitting at my table and eating.
thought he
So
said they
I
had to
remember
leave.
times that he visited me at that condo. Yes.
Okay, could you give us an approximation of how many times Mr. Wade visited you at the condo between the time you moved in and prior to November 1 of 2020?
I don't think often, but I don't want to speculate.
Can we say more than 5, more than 10?
Let's say more than 10, but I'm not sure that that's even accurate. He certainly has come and picked me up. I don't remember him being in that condo a lot.
How many times did Anna Cross come to
Yeah.
that condo between the time you moved in and November 1st of 2021?
Anna's right behind
I don't
him.
think Anna's ever been to that condo.
Of course not.
What about any other prosecutor that's involved in the prosecution of this case?
I don't think any of them have.
Of course
Just
not.
Mr. Wade.
That's correct, sir.
Yep. Why? He wasn't there for.
But it was a
personal
lonely
business.
time.
Oh my God. That 2021.
Depressed, man.
I have a lot of guilt about this time period in my life. Let me tell you why. But yes, it was a lonely time.
Okay.
I was very appreciative to the citizens for giving me this responsibility and this duty. But what I very, very quickly learned is that this is a very isolating job, and 2021 was a lonely time. I turned 50 in 2021. That's probably one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. I spent it alone. So
man.
I have a clear recollection of 2021 being lonely.
Did Mr. Wade ever come visit you at the condo in the time period I'm talking about prior to November of 2021 when Miss Yeartie was at the condo?
So Miss Yeartie and me, we didn't share the condo at the same time.
So the answer would be no.
But we never stayed there together, so it's an
I'm saying-
impossibility.
It's an impossibility.
Yeah,
So when I ask you about Mr. Wade visiting the condo,
Yeah.
when you were staying there,
yes,
Miss Yeartie wasn't staying there, correct?
that would be correct, yes.
She wouldn't be at the condo, correct?
No, she would not have been.
It would be you and Mr. Wade alone at the condo.
That's it.
Correct?
Yes,
That is,
Indicting
there
each
weren't
other.
any other witnesses to Mr. Wade and you at the condo, correct?
yes.
No security, none of your security detail.
No.
Object, she said it was just her and Mr. Wade.
You made your point, Mr. Saddow. Let's move on to the next one.
No one else.
Yes, Your
Aaron?
Honor. You hired Mr. Wade for the first time on November 1st of 2021, correct?
October of 2021, yes,
Okay.
sir.
He divorced
Your
the next day.
testimony is that at the time you hired Mr. Wade, there had never been a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade before you hired him, correct?
Yes, my testimony is that we were very good friends, but not Well, we're talking about sex, so let's just don't.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm saying romantic relationship doesn't necessarily have to be just sex.
Well,
It can
I
be
don't-
dating, it can be holding hands, it can be
Smoochy,
any
smoochy.
of those things that one might
Fanny slaps.
call romantic.
Hey,
I'm
mama.
asking you whether or not prior to November 1st of 2021, there was a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade. It's very simple. It's either a yes or a no.
I don't consider my relationship with him to be romantic before that. I'm not a hand holder, so no.
Okay, that's fine.
She just wants to jump into
Move
bed.
beyond November 1st of
Yes.
2021. If I understand your testimony, there was no romantic relationship with Mr. Wade until early in 2022, whether it be January or February or March, early in 2022, correct?
I would say sometime between February and April. Yes, sir.
All right. Now I'm asking you about that time period when it became romantic.
Yes, sir.
Okay? You didn't see the need, if I understand, to tell any of the people on the prosecution team when you had established a romantic relationship with Mr. Wade that the lead prosecutor, that is the man that was basically giving orders to others, was dating with you, correct?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point, Your Honor.
Mr.
Not
Saddow,
relevant.
relevance?
We're attempting to show that there is an issue on the credibility about the relationship. The failure to have informed anyone on her team that she was having a romantic relationship with the lead prosecutor, I suggest gives rise to that inference.
They're covering it up.
Relevance.
The inference that,
The inference that they were concealing this
Yeah, they were
because
covering it up.
it was not as it's been characterized to the court, and that in fact it started earlier than what they say.
Yep.
all right, overruled. Mr. Saddow?
Yep.
At that time, did you tell any other prosecutors on the prosecution
I
team?
never tell people at work who I'm dating.
All right, Mr. Saddow?
Okay. Were you ever in DC at the same time as Mr. Wade?
I was not.
On personal or business?
No, me and Mr. Wade have not been to DC at the same time. However, since Mr. Wade has been on this case, he's been to DC.
Yeah, talking with White House
Since
counsel.
Mr. Wade has been onto this case.
Yes.
I've been to DC. What has not happened is we
Let's
have not
go.
been in the District of Columbia
Ask about
at
that.
the same time.
Please ask about
Now,
that.
the only thing I'm not sure about
What were
with
you
what
doing
you
there?
asked me is if I've been to DC personally, because I got a lot of personal friends in that area. But I know that I have been to DC.
My next question is based on her opening the door, and therefore I'll
Yes,
just ask it,
let's
and Your
go.
Honor can decide whether or
Yep.
not it's appropriate.
He's
When you
probably gonna
went to
kick it out.
DC, did you go to the White House?
Yep.
I did not go to the
We
White
knew it was
House.
coming.
No, well,
Apparently, I'm going to get the answer anyhow.
there you have it. Next question.
Okay.
Breaking up
I'm not
smart,
going to get
man.
into the conversation per
We
se.
should.
Okay, let's do it.
Well, if he doesn't want to, we won't go there. So, Mr. Saddow, next question.
You know, it's kind of hard to say no when you've got that opportunity.
Yeah, let's go. I want to now.
All I'm going to say is, was it pre-indictment in this case?
So,
We know the timeline that the indictment was delivered.
okay,
Well,
but-
actually,
and
no,
so that
so
we're
I'll give you
clear,
that.
the
Okay.
physical relationship ended pre-indictment.
And is that when you were talking about the tough conversation?
But
Was-
I'm not sure that the tough conversation didn't happen till after, but the physical relationship. So I'm sure if you ask Mr. Wade, because he's a male, he would say we
What's
ended
going-
June or July because
This is
physical
ridiculous.
contact ended then. Just in my mind, being a woman, it's over when you have that like hard conversation. I just think women and men think differently.
And
Well,
I think the
that's
answer,
a
Mr. Saddow, to your
considerable-
question was she's not sure whether it was before or after the indictment.
I'm not sure that was her answer, but let's see if I can get specific.
That is what I said.
Did the forthcoming indictment have anything to do with that?
Oh,
Or was it just a coincidence?
Let's go on and have the conversation.
No, I'm just asking you whether or not it was a coincidence.
Had
or-
absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We
Whoa.
would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan.
Whoa.
A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Is there
Okay.
anything else you would like to add to that?
No.
I realize that you've testified that you have no records that with regard to cash payments,
Yes. sir.
correct?
Mhm.
Would your bank records reflect that you withdrew cash from your bank accounts during the time period of 2020, 2021, 2022, or 2023? I'm not asking you, I'm just asking whether they would reflect that you withdrew cash from any of your bank accounts.
So the exact amounts.
No, just
But yeah,
that you did.
of course, I withdrew money throughout that time period, throughout my life. I've withdrawn money from the bank.
That's
Yes,
what we
of
were
course.
asking
Talking about
before.
cash. That is that you go to a
Cash,
bank
right.
or you go to an ATM
Cash.
and you take cash out.
Either that way, or you go to Publix and you overpay, or you go to another store and you overpay. So yes, both through that, yes, of course,
A
they
cash
would reflect
withdrawal
that
from
at
a debit.
times.
Okay. And so those records, if we had them, would show that, correct?
That throughout the course of my life, I took out money.
I was very specific. I said
Yes, during the course
2020.
of that time period, I would have taken money out. Yes,
So do you have a problem with?
absolutely, yes.
You don't want the bank records to be made available for the court and the court alone. The Belize trip was for
His 50th birthday.
his 50th birthday and
So-
you paid for it.
100%. What my recollection is, I took about 4 in cash with me,
Just to be clear, to end this up, the 4,000 that you've just told us.
but I didn't give it all to him. Remember, I only gave the 2,500 to him.
I didn't ask you that. I was going to ask you that 4,000 is part of my words, cash hoard that you had collected over time.
Cash what?
Hoard, H-O-R-D-E.
Oh, I thought you said something different, sir.
No, I'm afraid I wouldn't say that. When you had money at your house,
I had money wherever I was staying, wherever I was laying my head. Yes, sir.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Nicely done, Steve Saddow. That's Trump's lawyer.